everybody! Welcome back to Eating in April's, and it's bright blessings because I'm making this video for an interfaith blog. For some of us, we have a Sabbath coming upon us known as Samhain at the end of October, and this is the October submission that I have. And one of the things that I always make around that time is wassail. And wassail is something that dates back to pre-Christian times and was made in Germany. And then after the Anglos and the Saxons went over to England, they took it with them. And it's a way to bless the apple trees, to try to make sure that there's a good harvest the following year. You make a drink. You can make it with a multitude of things, but typically these days we mix beer with apple cider and chop up fresh fruit and spices and put in there. But back in the Anglo-Saxon days, they would have used mead and honey wine and honey ale that they would have used. And those products are still available today. But to me, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned dark beer. I used Wassail today to put in there. I used equal amounts of apple cider with equal amounts of beer, and I used 4 beers that were right at 12 ounces and the equivalent of apple cider. I've got that in the pot heating right now as I speak. And the fruits that I chop up are apples, and then oranges, and lemons, and the secret star of the show, pineapples. So I'm going to show you how quick and easy this is. And as a matter of fact, I think I need a larger pot. Because once you put the fruit in there, it's going to fill this pot right up. So I'll do my big pot. There we go. Oh my gosh, that smells so amazing. The wonderful thing about this wassail is this is something that in different periods of time, it could have been made from 1st of September all the way up to mid-January. Sometimes it was used to bless the apple trees, and sometimes it was used just because it was good. Now, one thing that you would be picking up on oranges and lemons and pineapples are tropical fruits, so it would not have been available. It would have probably just been the apples that they used back in those days. But we do have these citrus fruits, and we do have these tropical fruits now, so we're going to use those today. Now, the trick with slicing up your fruit for this is you're going to want to fit a good mug full of your hot beer and cider and also chunks of fruit in there. So you're going to chunk your fruit up fairly small so it can fit in here. So is the orange. And you can mix as much fruit to go along with this as you want to, but I promise you the beer and cider by itself is just as delicious. But I like what happens when the fruit soaks up the beer. I think it tastes so good. And you can also put this in the refrigerator and work on this over a number of days. I typically serve this fall through midwinter, clear up to Valentine's Day. Nobody ever turns this down. And for people that don't drink alcohol, you can just leave the alcohol out and just do it as a spiced cider. And for kids too. Of course, in Europe, the kids would have had a little sip of the cider as well as the adults. It's very European to give the children a sip of that. Now, I do like a lot of lemon. I can sit and eat a lemon raw. We're going to have a lot of lemon in this. You can see that it's still heating. Another thing that's really great about this is you can top it off with the liquids. You can boil more cider and beer and just pour it on top of the fruit and just work on this day after day after day. It's really, really delicious. Now, you might want to fish the lemons out after a day or two, though, because the rinds will get a little bit tart. That's not good. Now, if you're like me and you live in Central Ohio, September 1st through late October, you'll be able to go to the farm stands and farm markets and get the apples that are harvested fresh here. Ohio has the perfect climate for apples. As a matter of fact, Mr. Johnny Appleseed himself planted a lot of the seeds here. And a lot of the early settlers had not only peaches, of course, but apples planted in their yards. More of this. I'm just going to do 2 apples because I want extra room for this pineapple. Now, if you want to, you can cut the rind off of this, but I don't. I think it's pretty, and nobody's ever complained. Just fish this right out and eat it up. Although the center pith, you want to take that out. That's nasty. It's fibrous, just not good. I want a little more pineapple. You slice up your whole pineapple to put in here, and then if there's some left over, you can just chop it up and put it on the table with your snacks. But this right here is a real crowd pleaser every last time. Some people will put in honey or sugar or brown sugar in this, and I think that's a mistake because this is plenty sweet enough in and of itself. And I want a little more pineapple. See a little bit of smoke rising up out of here. This is getting to the point that it's getting just about done. Wash the juice off. There we go. Now for your spices, I'm going to show you a dirty little trick that is going to make this so much better. You can buy whole nutmeg at the grocery store, and it really is one of the best kept secrets in the culinary world. And you're just going to grate that fresh into here. Fresh nutmeg tastes so much better than the dried. I use this for everything. Pancakes, breads, jerk chicken, everything. Now, the thing with fresh nutmeg though is you're going to use less than you would if you just use the stuff that was already grated, because this is very much stronger, and you'll see that once you start grating it. But I've got a big pot of this, so I used about 3/4 of a small piece. Now, cinnamon is something that you want to kind of go easy on too, because once you combine your cinnamon in your drinks, if you use too much, it gets a little slimy, and that's not very pleasant at all. Probably use about a tablespoon or 2 of that. Then, now if you have fresh ginger, you can slice that up and put that out of there. And it's okay if you get a little piece of it in your mouth when you're drinking, just pull it out. It's okay. But I have the dried ginger. Put a little bit of that in there. If you're more comfortable with measuring things, I did 48 ounces of, I did 4 12-ounce beers and the exact equivalent of cider. You might like to do a little bit less or a little bit more. If I were you, what I would do is I would start with the apple cider and the fruits first, and then just add the beer to taste. I do like a little bit more beer in mine, I admit. And then I put 2 apples, 2 lemons. I only had 1 orange. I usually use 2 oranges, and then I used about 3/4 of a pineapple. I use the equivalent of about a tablespoon each of my spices. And the beer is going to start fizzing. You can see it smoking. This is something really good to serve, even if you're just having a Halloween party, and you can call it witch's brew. But what I do every year, I serve this as much as possible, especially if you can get fresh apple cider from an orchard anywhere near where you are. You can do an internet search and find them. Fresh apples, wonderful. What we do every winter solstice is I make this and then I pour some on the roots of my tree. No matter what kind of tree I have, I used to have an apple tree. We now have an elm. I've had a non-fruiting plum tree that I used to pour that on the roots. And the dirty little secret about that is the heat and the nutrients and the cold weather, it tends to be very good for the tree. I don't pour a lot on because my trees are small, but when I had a 100-year-old apple tree, I would pour like a whole pot of that on the roots. And don't worry, it's not going to scorch the roots, especially if it's a mature tree. I wouldn't do this on a baby tree. But this is something, this is a special tradition that you can have with your family. And another thing, if you're earth-based, or if you love nature and you love birds and squirrels and raccoons and things, you cannot put the beer in and just pour this around the fruits, the roots of your tree, and leave the chunks of fruit out there, and the little forest creatures can munch on that in winter time too. And that's just a wonderful, blessed thing that you can do. This has almost come to a boil. What I do is I bring it to a boil, a hard boil, and I boil it for about 5 minutes. You can just bring it to a boil. You can boil it 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to taste this now and see how I like the spices. I think I need another taste. It's so good. I just want another taste. Oh my God, that is so good. This is perfect. I'm going to tilt this so you can see inside the pot. There should be a lot of fruit in there. You can really taste those cloves. Now, if you would rather, you can throw about a dozen whole cloves in there. Some people like to put in a whole orange studded with cloves to make it look really pretty for presentation. I don't do that simply because I like to eat the fruit. This is going to clear and come to a boil. What I'm going to do, since it's only 5:22 in the early evening, I'm not going to start drinking this now, otherwise I'm going to get real warm and happy and I'm not going to get anything else done. I'm going to bring this to the boil and I'm going to let this sit after it boils 5 minutes, about an hour or two to cool off. And then I'm going to put this in my refrigerator, and the fruits are going to mingle and soften even more, and it's just so good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we are coming upon the third harvest. For us people who are neo-pagans, we celebrate 3 harvests, and the final harvest is at the end of October or at the beginning of November. But this hot spice cider drink can be part of your family tradition that you bless your family with all of your love, from harvest time clear through to midwinter, and just a little bit beyond that for New Year's. It can be part of your New Year's celebrations, and it can be something that everybody really looks forward to whenever they come to your home. All right. However you celebrate your harvest, may you be blessed. And may all of the bounty from your kitchen bless the people who come to you. And I will see you next time. This has been Eating in April's. Bye-bye.